Okay, well, first of all, welcome everyone. It's great to see people in attendance here this evening, and this will be recorded. So people who aren't able to attend this evening will still be able to get the information down the road. So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is in traditional Mi'kmaq territory, and we acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of the Beothuk, Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit of this province. I'm Carolyn Parsons. I'm the Registrar and Director of Student Services here at Grenfell Campus Memorial University, and I'll be hosting this Family Orientation Town Hall session this evening. So before I introduce our lovely panelist here, or our panel, I'd like to pass the mic over to Dr. Jeff Keshen, our Vice President.
Thanks, Carolyn. It was just a little bit slow in finding the unmute button. It's so wonderful to be here this evening. I have the pleasure, the honor of serving as Vice President of Grenfell Campus. I want to extend to everybody a really warm welcome, thanking you to come to this virtual session and for having family members attend Grenfell. Of course, this is something that we really would have much preferred to do in person before a full room, but still, like those in-person sessions, we are here tonight to answer your questions and to reassure you that everybody on this panel and many others have been preparing for months to make your child, if talking to parents here, your educational experience the very best possible during these very difficult and clearly unprecedented times. On a personal note, I will say that our daughter is also at Grenfell going into her second year. And I know full well that she would also be back on campus. She'd much rather be back on campus, interacting in person with fellow students, professors, and enjoying the many services that we offer. But unfortunately, we can't do that for the fall term, putting so many people into close contact with another, including in our residence, which holds 600 people in various units. I know that many of you are wondering what will be for January 2021 and our winter 2021 term. At this point, we are unable to make that call, both for Grenfell Campus and for St. John's across the Memorial Network. Our approach continues to be guided by provincial health officials, and I know that they and their counterparts in other parts of Canada are assessing different models and possibilities for different school systems, including university, bearing in mind the potential of a second wave of COVID. So we always have to be mindful of that. In the meantime, in this remote format, we plan classes and our various support services to replicate, as far as possible, what would be available to students, to your children in normal times. So today, you're going to hear from various people who's expertly managed different parts of our university campus, who all of them work really hard to make your daughter's or your son's educational experience a fantastic one, an exceptional one. You're also going to hear from a parent of a student who attended Grenfell, a recent graduate of Grenfell. And the parent herself is also alum of our campus. And Katrina is going to share what it's like to accompany a daughter through the university system, both those things which were really engaging and exciting, and also the challenges that are faced by students and also by parents and students. What I hope is going to shine through for you is that all of us take really seriously our responsibility to make sure that your children are doing very well throughout their time here, and all of us do our very best to help them succeed. Here, virtually, and hopefully soon in person, they're going to enjoy a small class experience, what we call a personalized learning, in the sense of being part really of what is a true community. Many come to think of Grenfell as extended family. The profs and the staff that offer invaluable services and support will come to know them as individuals. No one at Grenfell really feels like a number. They feel as part of an extended family. And everybody here, including myself, is available to offer them help. My office is in the center of campus in a hallway that's constantly frequented by students. If they find things a little bit too stressful, we have expert assistance that's available, both with academics such as writing and math, as well as personal counseling. You'll hear soon from Dr. Veronica Hutching, who heads our campus psychological services, and access that students have to other medical care as needed. Although we're a small campus compared to most other universities, we understand that it can, especially at first, still seem kind of big to a lot of people, and that a number of students are sometimes shy about becoming involved or seeking out assistance and can find their studies kind of difficult at times. All this is normal. We fully expect it. Just as we expect that the online and remote learning environment is going to bring some heightened anxiety, it's going to bring some challenges. It's not usual. And we will help students work through that so long as they reach out to us. And we know their problems, we know their challenges, we can help them. We will stress to them, as I'm telling all of you today or on tape, that we want and will always work with them to make their Grenfell experience a positive one. For some, it's going to take a little bit longer to adapt than others, such as the importance of managing their time effectively, so they have adequate amounts for both work and relaxation. I stress that point in talks that I make across the province. Carolyn has been with me on some of these talks as well, as deans have been, professors. We go into the high schools, we talk to the students in the career classes. We encourage them as well not to be too hard on themselves and to always be proud of what genuine effort produces. Myself, having taught for more than a quarter century in history, I can tell you that virtually every prof is very impressed with students who show true effort in their studies. That goes a long way, and parents, you should remind students of it when they're feeling stressed about a situation, that effort really does carry a lot of value. We know that anxiety is an issue among many of our students and that many will require academic accommodations. We urge them to make that known so we can fully service their needs and better support them to achieve success. And we realize as well that some are going to experience, when they come here, some sense of loneliness, and especially now that they might experiencing that. And then when they're on campus, it sometimes can be a little bit tough to break the ice and to get involved. But what I can tell you is that the people who work at Grenfell are truly, truly amazing. We too are parents, we know your concerns, and we want to reassure each and every one of you that we really care about your children sincerely, and that help will always be available. That is our commitment to you. It's our commitment as a smaller, and I would say truly supportive and compassionate campus. And once they get over that initial bumpiness, I know that they'll love this place. From where we now attract students and professors from across the globe. More than 200 of our students are international from more than 200 countries. 300 of our students are self-declared Indigenous, as Carolyn read the land acknowledgement. This is things in which we take great pride. We produce graduates who have gone on to some of the most prestigious professional and graduate schools, careers across the globe. And more important than anything else, they tell us even years after they've been at this campus, their fond memories of how they felt part of something that was a community. So at this point, I'm going to hand things back over to Carolyn or my colleagues. We'll cover various areas, answer questions, and I will be happy for those of you who are live to answer questions as well. And for those who are watching this on tape, please reach out to any one of us. We're always available. Thanks, Carolyn.
Thanks, Jess. We wanted to come together this evening to talk about obviously the fall semester and to talk about some of our student support services and to really reiterate that we are here to help our students succeed. We have a wonderful panel here with us this evening who I will introduce. So as I call your name, if you could give a little wave to our the people in the audience, that would be great. So first up, we have Dr. Veronica Hutchings. She's a registered psychologist with our counseling and psychological services. Next up, in the bottom of my screen, we have Katrina Basha. Katrina attended Grenfell. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but she was, I think, when we first opened our doors in 1975, she received our first Student of the Year award. And she probably deserves an award for this. She is the parent of 2 Grenfell graduates. She survived the university years with students living at home for some of those years. And she is a co-chair of Grenfell's Community Advisory Board. Next up is Brad Elliott. Brad is one of our student affairs officers. He works in our Accessibility Center and Education Support, which we refer to as ACES. And thanks to Diane Johnson, one of our other student affairs officers who coordinated this session tonight. She will be helping moderate this session. She'll be keeping an eye out for any questions that may come up in the chat, and she's already collected some questions that have been sent in advance. Each panelist will have a couple of minutes to share some information, and then we will have an opportunity for questions for each panelist. I already mentioned the chat on the side. I will try to remind you about that as we go along. Now, all of each panelist has been allotted a few minutes. If anyone starts going over, I have a bell here that I will ring loudly. Just joking, I don't actually have a bell, but we're going to try to keep it somewhat brief to give lots of time for questions. So first up, and they don't know the order we're going in, so Veronica, I thought we would start with you this evening.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Yes? Okay, great. So I have my timer there so that I can see I don't go over my allotted minutes. Hi, everyone. As Callan's, my name is Dr. Veronica Hutchins. I go by Veronica. I like my name. And I'm a registered psychologist here at Grenfell campus in our Counseling and Psychological Services Division. So we are a free service that's provided to the students of Memorial. And what I mean by that is that the cost of seeing a psychologist or counselor at Grenfell CPS is included in the tuition. We're just like the library. So a lot of times when people are worried about seeing the, we hear about how expensive mental health services can be. Students don't have to worry about that. I'm a full-time psychologist working at Grenfell, and there's also a full-time counselor. So there's two of us. Jennifer Broadbent is my colleague, and she has a Master's of Education in counseling and psychology from Memorial. My PhD is in clinical psychology from the University of Regina. And so we are available to see students from a wide range. And so this might be things like mental illness, so students who have diagnosed mood disorders, anxiety disorders, personality disorders, the whole gamut. We see things like OCD, major depression, anxiety, but we also see students who are struggling with that adjustment. So maybe it's that change from high school to university and that increased anxiety that's natural, but very unpleasant when it's looking at the expectations and how they have changed from being an undergraduate or from being a high school student now to being in university. We also help students with relationship issues or some test anxiety. Sometimes there's a little bit of time management. If students are worried they want to talk, they can certainly come and book an appointment with us. Now, lots of times what we're doing is actually normalizing what the students are feeling. So often, I think in our society, unfortunately, the pendulum has kind of swung. It used to be no one talked about mental health, but now if someone's feeling sad or someone's feeling anxious, it's swung the other way. And now we're saying, oh, you must have a mood disorder, or oh, you must have an anxiety disorder. You need to go talk to somebody about that. And so a lot of it is sometimes it's education. In terms of how to book an appointment with us, it's a little bit different this year because we're both operating remotely. So I'm actually coming to you from my basement this evening. So when a student comes on, what we'll be doing is doing a WebEx session. So very much like what we're here right now, it's the same platform. And students can book in a session with either myself or with Jennifer. How they do that is that's still the same in the sense that you call the health services reception, which is 637-7919. I don't know, Diana, if maybe you could put that up in the chat or whatever. So 637-7919 is the number. Normally there's a receptionist who's there all the time. This fall, that will be a little bit different. So students may have to call and leave a message. And sometimes that can be anxiety provoking for students, but it's a good skill to be able to call somebody and leave a message, a professional message. So they can call, leave a message saying they'd like to book an appointment. And then what will happen is Christy, our fabulously wonderful, warm support person, she will call the students back. She will have to send out an intake form and a consent form, and that just gives the students some more information about what we're doing in terms of how the system works and what they need to know when they book an appointment and what to expect from those sessions. And then once we get those forms filled out, then Christy will talk to them on the phone and kind of pick a time that works for our schedules as well as those. So again, I'll be around here for the duration. And so if you have any other specific questions or concerns, by all means, questions, feel free to type those in the Q&A box. And there's my timer, 4 minutes exactly.
That's pretty good. It's just like when you're taking a communications course and part of your grade is dependent on how long your presentation is and keeping to that time. Diane, do you have any questions for Veronica?
University without interfering. Oh, am I muted? No. I'll repeat that, Veronica. How to support your student at university without interfering?
This is a question that we get a lot, right? I think one of the best ways in terms of supporting your students without interfering is just being there and listening. Sometimes students will vent and they'll want to go on and on and on. And other times they actually want more support, or they want more direct intervention. It's really, that young adulthood stage is really a really key time in a person's life in terms of really becoming more of an individual adult, taking more responsibility for themselves. And I think one of the best things to do is to back off, let them try. It's okay if your student fails. And I know that might be horrible to hear. And you're saying, but oh my dear little Johnny or Susie, they've always gotten A's and now they're getting a C. Oh my God, or dear heavens, should they, fail the test or a quiz? That doesn't mean that their life is over and that they're going to fail out of university, right? It's about letting them kind of go through, letting them experience the consequences of their choices. Like Dr. Keshan was saying earlier, about effort goes a long way. And so if they're really trying, encouraging that. If they come to you and they're saying, I don't know what to do, well, then you could say, well, you know what? There's a bunch of services and supports available at Grenfell campus. And so, I went to this family orientation session at the beginning, and, they have this thing called ACEs and the Learning Center, where they have a bunch of supports for students who are academics, or if they're really stressed and, or if, maybe now they're not engaged in their regular supports. It's reminding them, if they do have mental illness, what are their skills that they've learned with their previous mental health clinicians, or that maybe they've garnered from just living with mental illness. Are they doing those? Are they taking care of their basic physical needs? Are they sleeping? Are they eating properly? Right? So you can kind of plant those seeds, but ultimately it's about letting them make those decisions. And so I think, when you start to step in and, you're starting to call, the Learning Center to book that appointment, or you're calling CPS, that's when you're interfering, and you don't want to do that, because number one, if you call and try to book an appointment, my office isn't going to let you because it's not about you. It's about your student. It's about your child or your loved one. And so, as hard as it is, back off and let them do this. Trust in yourself, trust in your parenting and your guidance, that you've given them the skills and the tools that they need to be able to come and succeed. And if they don't know, ask. It's a very small collegial campus. Normally we have open door policies. Now I guess we have open computer policies. I guess that's the new COVID way of doing things. But feel free to email and ask us, or pick up the phone and call. And if we don't answer, leave the message, because a lot of times, particularly this fall, we're not able to be at our desks and be able to pick up that phone, but we are checking those messages and we are getting back to them. So I don't know if that answers the question or not.
Thank you, Veronica.
Okay, so we will move along. Next up, I would like to invite Brad Elliott with ACES to speak for a few minutes.
Thank you, Carolyn. Happy to be here. Just before I get started, I just put a link in the chat. It's FAQ, so if there's any information that I happen to miss in this, it might be covered in that. Or if you have any questions, it could be covered in that as well. However, I'm happy to take questions, any questions that come up. So as Carolyn says, my name is Brad Elliott. I work in ACES, which stands for Accessibility Center Education Support. Primarily, we look after accommodations for students with exceptionalities and disabilities. The key component of this area is that any documented disability and any recommended accommodations, we're required to look after it. So this can include academic accommodations, classroom accommodations, accessibility issues on campus. Under normal circumstances, non-pandemic circumstances, you would see me in my office, which is part of the Learning Center, which also has a testing area. This testing area is used for students who require extra time, a small group setting, use of a word processor, or any other accommodations that cannot be administered in the classroom during the exams. Given that the fall semester is going to be done remotely / online, all exams or accommodations, as well as any other accommodations, are primarily going to be the responsibility of the professor. I will correspond with the professor and with the student to ensure those accommodations are put in place, however the exams are done, however the assignments are done as well. But essentially, the first step for any student who requires academic accommodations or classroom accommodations or any type of accessibility issue is to provide some sort of medical documentation. This can come from your family doctor. This can come from registered psychologists. If you feel like you need any sort of accommodation and don't have any documentation, you can try to schedule an appointment with Veronica or Jennifer in CPS. Also, any student who, if you had accommodations in high school, I would need that documentation in high school in order to administer the accommodations that were consistent with that. If you have never had any accommodations before and you feel like you may need some, I would recommend just ensuring that you have the documentation available that supports it. So as I said, exam accommodations include things like extra time for your exams more than the class time. That includes running a small group setting or alone. That can include any sort of assistive or adaptive technology, which could be a word processor, could be screen reading software, as well as somebody available to read or describe an exam for you. Classroom accommodations and in course accommodations include like leniency for summit due dates, leniency for absences, any sort of ergonomic concerns, any sort of, if you're on campus, any sort of concerns regarding getting around campus, if due to some sort of mobility issue, we would be the people to primarily address that as well. Also, ACES is a part of the Learning Center, which helps administer accommodations such as tutoring, if you do require specialized tutoring, as well as we try to set up some sort of copies of notes or note taking if that's required or in class due to whatever disability you may be dealing with. And we also would be the contact person that you would speak with if you require some sort of grant funding or for any sort of tutoring or note taking or any sort of service and equipment, whether it's a new laptop or any sort of assistive technology you may require to complete your studies. I would be the contact person that would help you complete that grant application as well. But yeah, so if you do have any questions or concerns, or you feel you need any sort of accessibility issue needs to be addressed, you should contact 637-6232 or email studentservices@grenfell.mun.ca. You'll find that information in the link I sent in the chat as well. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Brad. And again, I'll just remind everyone, if you do have any questions, you can put them in the chat feature to the right of your screen. But in the meantime, Diane, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I see you beat me to it putting up the email. Thank you. Brad, just something that came up recently was in terms of like, what are the basics of going through getting an accommodation? You mentioned like the documentation and stuff, but what's the procedure? Like, how does that unfold?
Thank you. So the first step is to provide any sort of medical documentation. If you contact that email, they'll set you up with, they'll forward your message to me, and I will contact you directly to go through that process. But basically, we'll request any sort of medical documentation you may have. Your medical documentation, like it should come from a medical professional, whether it's a registered psychologist or family doctor or anyone of that nature. The letter ideally should be done on a letterhead signed by the whoever assessed you, as well as indicate. It doesn't necessarily have to indicate what the condition is, but it does have to indicate. It does. We do recommend that it indicates what accommodations you may require. So if you do, if it's recommended you require time for exams, require some sort of leniency for some due dates or anything like that, that should be listed in the letter. Once I receive that documentation, I can do an intake interview, or if you're still waiting for it, we can still do the intake interview in the interim. This can be done, given the circumstances, it can be done over the phone or through video conferencing. I'll just ask you some questions about the things you're dealing with, the accommodation required, make sure we go over everything that's available at Grenfell with respect to not just accommodations, but I would also discuss just the Learning Center and the different services we offer as well, which can be of help to any student, but particular students who have accommodation needs as well. And from there, if you were on campus, there's a process of paperwork, which I'd ask students to sign and submit to their faculty members. Given the current circumstances, that paperwork will be an email that's sent to each of your individual faculty members that you'll be CC'd on with your information, not about your disability, but specifically, I have to notify faculty of the accommodations that are required so that they're aware of it and they're able to set that up. And the student will be CC'd on those emails so they're aware that the faculty member knows about it as well. And they said if there are any questions or concerns that come up, they can let me know. Just keep in mind that most accommodations that are needed or requested, we can typically approve it. However, our policy does indicate that it has to be up to the point of undue hardship. So if an accommodation does conflict with the integrity of the course, sometimes you may have to find an alternative to what's being requested. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you very much, Brad.
Thank you. And last but not least, I will invite Katrina Basha to the floor. Katrina?
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Okay. Hi. It's great to be here this evening. I will say that I'm a little daunted by this kind of technology. I've used it before, certainly, but my former profession was a speech pathologist, and I always love to see faces when I'm speaking with them. So I hope I do a good job this evening for you. It's great to be here. As Carolyn explained earlier, I am a graduate of Grenfell. I actually was on 3 campuses. I have 2 degrees, one from Memorial University and one from Dalhousie. The reason why I explain that to you is because of all the years I spent at university. My best year was at Grenfell. It was I was there in 1975, and I really felt like I was part of a campus that really cared about me. The professors cared about me, and it was a real community. And I still miss it, and that's why I came back to Grenfell to be part of it. Certainly, I had 2 daughters who attended Grenfell. They both graduated actually from Grenfell, one from the business program and the younger daughter from the fine arts program. And so the key areas that I want to discuss with you this evening are kind of 8 key areas that I've gleaned over the years of having my daughters live at home while attending campus. And so I'll kind of cover them, but I'll also throw in some personal anecdotes of what I learned as a parent, both myself and my husband, with having 2 daughters who attended university while staying at home. You can also, I'm sure, even if your son or daughter is going to Grenfell and staying in residence, some of these areas will, I'm sure, pique your interest as well. One of the hardest things I found as a parent was letting go. The letting go as in being concerned about them attending class, because obviously in most cases, unless they get student loans, you're probably paying for it financially. When my oldest daughter went to Grenfell in her first year, I rooted out her class schedule out of her bag and posted it like I would have done in high school. I called one morning from work and found out she answered the phone at 10 o'clock in the morning and she was supposed to be in class. And of course, I was really upset about it. But I quickly learned over the years that that I had to learn to let go, and I had to give them the capacity to be advocates for themselves. I could no longer go to the university and speak to profs on their behalf like I would have done in high school. And so I had to quickly learn to basically be a coach, but to be supportive, but allow them their independence. So I no longer went through their book bags or their books, so that was really, it was difficult for both myself and my husband to do that. The second daughter who went through, I think I did a lot better, but I learned very quickly. One of the big areas that for us as a family was the change in dynamics around finals and midterms, a change such that they were stressed, and the stress displayed over onto the family. And for the first 2 years of my oldest daughter going to school, I never saw our dining room table because it was completely littered with books and papers and the computer and the laptop and whatever. And that was, it was very stressful as a family. We had to learn to adapt. We had to take care of ourselves emotionally, physically, and psychologically at the same time as trying to care for them as well. So I caution you to be, if your son or daughter is living at home, that around midterms and finals, you are going to be stressed. It's hard not to be, because they're there and they're up late at night, and if you're working, it's disruptive to your schedule as well. Leading into that was the second or around I think the second term of the second year, my oldest daughter discovered the library. She was going out of the house one night, and she had her book bag packed, and I said, "Where are you going?" She said, "I'm going to the library." That was when I started discovering the top of my dining room table again, because then she took all her resources to the library and learned to study. And the library at Grenfell is phenomenal. It's a great resource area. People are very helpful. They're very professional. Lots of resources available to them. So the more that they use the library, the better it's going to be for your home life. The fourth area that I really want to speak about, and this is really critical. I've done a lot of research and reading over the years because I've been still interested in academic success and academia overall. The number one predictor of academic success is going to class. Now, it's so different from high school. If you don't go to class, the prof is unlikely to call your son or daughter to say, "Where have you been? You haven't shown up for class." And they're not going to follow that. So it's totally different than high school. But the number one predictor of academic success is going to class, and it continues to be regular class attendance. Following that, I think every student is assigned an academic advisor at Grenfell. And I think it's really important as soon as possible that they have set up a meeting. Now with COVID, I'm not sure how that plays out at the university level right now, but certainly having some telephone conversation with their academic advisor if they have questions or concerns about their schedule. Another thing, if your son or daughter is living at home, the fifth area is you really need to stock up on ink and printer paper. I can't stress this enough. I don't know how much ink and printer paper we went through. I think Staples saw us on a regular basis, unless you're going to the library and paying for photocopies of the things that they need, but you really do need to do that. So that's a really important point. I get asked a lot about our children. Did they work while they attended university? And this is the sixth point. There's research that indicates that some students who are very organized and who are not procrastinators can do well with combining work and attending classes. However, there is a point of reference here, and that is that they say that 15 hours max is probably the best indicator of how much time that they can actually spend away from their studies, 15 hours of working at employment. So I probably recommend not having anything full-time, because it is certainly attending university is a lot of work. The seventh point I want to discuss with you is that there's a vast difference between individuals who are pursuing a baccalaureate in an arts program as opposed to a baccalaureate in a science program. The individual who comes home with a class schedule with a BA program probably has a lot of gaps. It looks like they have a lot of gaps in their schedule, whereas the individual who's probably doing a science program may have a lot of labs, and so their schedule looks a lot heavier. The reason being that that it looks so different is not that the art student is having a lot more free time on their hands, is the fact that that free time a lot of times needs to be devoted to research, because there are a lot of papers to generally be written in a BA program, and they're going to need that free time. So the student who comes home, and says, oh, I have a lot of free time and I'm doing an arts degree and major in English, let me tell you, that time quickly gets filled up with research and writing papers, drafting and rewriting and writing papers. So, don't let that fool you. It seems like they have a lot of free time. They actually don't. And certainly class schedules vary for different degrees, whether it's a degree in environment or fine arts. So to take that into account. My final point to you, and I probably surpassed my 4 minutes, I'm sorry if I have, and I probably alluded to it earlier, is you need to really take care of yourself. It's really important. Schedule date nights with your partner, your husband, your girlfriend, whatever, and take care of yourself physically and psychologically, because it is a great change in your life to have a student, especially living at home, attending university. The stress and the strain of it can really get to you, especially if your child, your son or daughter, is not that well organized and tends to be a procrastinator. The stress that falls on you, even though you think it's not going to, it really does. So I just want to reemphasize that you really need to take care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. See, I didn't have a bell. I wasn't even looking at a timer. Diane, any questions for Katrina?
Actually, I'm going to scrap the one I had and address one that Katrina brought up. Would any of the panelists have any information about academic advising?
Sorry, I can actually speak to that. Yes, because Katrina did talk about the importance of academic advising. So normally, during the first week of class, students would have a meeting with their faculty advisor. So all new students are normally assigned a faculty advisor of somebody who's teaching them. This year, for students who are declared in a specific program, their program chair, which is the norm, will act as their advisor. But also we have 2 academic advisors in the registrar's office who assist with all academic advising, mostly focused on first year and undeclared students. So I was going to reference this at the end, but there will be a schedule of orientation activities that will be posted soon. And one of the things that will be happening during that first week will be an academic advising session. So I do encourage students to attend that, just better understand all the important dates and course selection. But also, don't be alarmed. If your student isn't sure what they're doing, that's okay as well. But I always encourage students, the more people that you can speak with, whether it's your advisor or one of the professors who's teaching you a course, talk to as many people as possible and learn as much as you can about the different areas.
Thank you, Katrina and Carolyn. Okay,
so that's it for our panelists. I do want to give a couple of minutes in case anyone had any questions they wanted to type in the chat. While we're seeing if anyone has any questions, do any of the panelists have any last minute tips or words of wisdom for either parents or students?
Hi, Carolyn. Just wanted to jump in and mention ACES is, as I mentioned earlier, is a part of the Learning Center. I just put a link in the chat about information about some of the services offered through the Learning Center. And Diane, I'm not sure, maybe you might be able to reiterate whether or not all of these are going to be available in the fall, given the pandemic and everything being online. But normally, things we offer include we have a full-time literacy assistant, a full-time math assistant. So if you are any English courses or any courses that have a lot of assignments that require submission of academic writing, our full-time literacy assistant, her name is Bev Young. You can schedule an appointment with her to. Normally, if it was on campus, we would meet with her one-on-one. to go over your paper to make sure, check spelling and grammar, check content, as well as if there's any references, you can help with that as well. Just anything revolving around academic writing. I believe where it's all online this semester, all remote. She's mostly going to be doing it through paper drops. You would just email her and schedule an appointment where she would actually look at your paper and email it back to you with revisions and advice on how to make it more, improve the paper. Teresa Janes is our math assistant. So you can usually schedule appointments with her to do one-on-one tutoring sessions with any math homework you're having. Please note that you need a Grimple email address to log into your My Grimple to schedule appointments with either one of them. And we do recommend that you try to make an effort to schedule those as far in advance as possible. I know sometimes one in particular, I think, limits it to once a week you can schedule in, but this slots do tend to book up fast, particularly during heavier assignment due date time. So I would recommend getting those in as soon as possible. Also, normally we would offer a program called supplementary instruction, where a mature student who's already done a course that's considered a high needs, high risk kind of course where a lot of students typically enroll in it and maybe struggle in it. We have a mature student who's already completed the course, done well in it. They go back to class, they take notes, and they create tutoring sessions where any student can attend for free and a couple nights a week or a couple times a week. I don't know if we're offering this through remote or not. Maybe Diane would be able to give more information about that. But if we were on campus, there would be a room scheduled where students could walk in and get more information or tutoring on a particular course that's offered for SI, as well as peer tutoring, where if a student feels they need additional help in a particular course, they would submit a peer tutoring form to the Learning Center. That form would be reviewed, and we would identify a mature student who's already done the course as who can, if they're available, meet with that prospective student once a week, and that student is the tutor is compensated through the Learning Center for that once a week period where they meet with that student to do tutoring sessions. So I just wanted to add that in because I feel like those services are very important, and I think students should be aware of them for sure.
And Carolyn, if I could just add one more thing. You're Brad and Carolyn, Katrina, and Veronica, some of our amazing people that are connected with the campus. But you know, sometimes for people who are listening to this on tape, for example, you don't know where exactly to write, but don't worry about that as well, because sometimes all of us, myself included, we get messages from people because they're not sure about where to write for to make an inquiry about something. All of us on this panel, we all know each other really well. We work in close proximity with each other. So really, if I get a message that I know that belongs to Brad or Carolyn, I just walk down the hall and I let them know. So don't be, it's not an impenetrable thing where you're not sure about where to write. If it's a student who's listening, if it's a parent who's listening, we'll get you what you need really fast. And everybody on this campus is so highly committed to serving students. It's really our calling card. So that's the message I want to leave, is that we're all here because we do care, and it's not hard for you to get the help you need because we all know each other here. It is truly community in that regard.
Carolyn, we have a question. The question is, are all online lectures being recorded this semester?
That's a good question. I can't, I don't think I can give a blanket statement there. I know several courses or several professors are planning to record their lectures and make it available to try and accommodate students that may not be able to access it at the specific time, but it will be somewhat dependent on the individual course. And that should be made known to you when you get your course syllabus at the very start of the class. If you need to know that in advance because maybe you're not able to attend at the specific time that's stated, I would definitely encourage you to contact the professor directly and just ask them what their plan is and indicate your situation. Obviously, I'm sure many of you have seen, we're offering courses in a couple of different formats. Some of the courses are truly what we refer to as an online course. And when it's completely online, there are no specific class times given. So there's no live component. But a lot of the courses that would normally be held on campus and now have moved to remote delivery, a lot of the professors are still planning to continue having live lectures. But of course, it's recognized that we could have students in different time zones, or there could be students who have challenges with a strong enough internet connection. So I would really encourage you to reach out to your professor just to see what their plan is in terms of whether or not they'll be recording the lectures. If you have concerns about your specific situation and you're wondering if there are other things that may be able to assist you, please email us. You can email the info account. You can email me directly, Carolyn Parsons, csparsons@grenfell.mun.ca, and we will do our best to support you. I'm not suggesting we can provide all the recorded lectures or anything, but we can look at what is your concern and how can we work with you to best address that.
Thank you.
That was sent directly to me, actually. It's from Michael. It says, I'm in the fine arts program, and I'm wondering about how I'm going to get the art supplies I need, given there's no art stores near me.
That's a very good question, but my understanding, I'm second guessing myself now, but the bookstore at Grenfell campus has recently, they have some limited hours, so you can contact them and they are mailing some supplies. So I know art supplies was one of those items that they've been sort of promoting. So if you go to the Grenfell Bookstore page, I'll try to get that link for you, or maybe Diane, you could do a quick search there and put that in the chat. And you can call them up and you can speak with Peggy at our bookstore, and she should be able to mail you what you need. I know also the Fine Arts, the School of Fine Arts, in addition to that, I know there were some courses that were mailing out supply packages to students. So first, just look at the bookstore, and if you don't find what you need, I would contact Fine Arts directly.
If I can jump in for a minute, it's Veronica again, everybody. I put in a couple of comments in the chat there, just in terms of our email, cps@grenfell.mun.ca, in case you did want to email Christy a question. And for booking appointments, though, it does need to be done through the phone. We need a phone number to call you back, because we found that the going back and forth over email, does this time work? And then it takes a couple of days for someone to get back to you, like, no, it doesn't, or yes, it does, and then that time slot is gone. So to book the appointment, you do need to call and leave the message. We've also, some of you may have heard or be familiar with our health services as well, which we share, that the health services reception is for both counseling and psychological services, but also the physicians on campus. We're still trying to work out exactly how those physicians clinics might work in the time of COVID. So that hasn't been sorted out yet, but you can certainly call that same number, that 637-7919 number, or email healthservices@grenfell.mun.ca. And again, I have the email listed in the chat function as well. So if you have questions, if a student is worried about getting a prescription refilled or something like that, by all means, certainly send us an email, give us, or send email health services, or give them a call to get that information. I also wanted to point out, just to kind of highlight about my comment earlier about not necessarily everybody who is experiencing some distress would need to see a psychologist or a counselor. Our website, which again I put up in the chat function, it's just www.grenfell.mun.ca/CPS. Nice and easy to remember, has a bunch of resources, online supports. Some of them are handouts that you can download, some of them are videos that you can watch, but it's another way to get a little bit of support. We also have some online programs like WellTrack and Mind Well You and whatnot that students also find helpful, Grenfell Mindfulness, things like that, that that students can check out if they're just experiencing a little bit of distress, like, I don't really need to talk to somebody, but I would like a little bit of extra support. They can check out our website for some additional ideas as well.
Steve in ITS, I had two questions in the Q&A. Now they've disappeared. One was about a full list of materials. Do you have that question there?
The questions I see in the Q&A, one of them has been answered. The other one I see is from Noah. It says, can you offer any comment on how labs will be handled given they are hands-on?
Unfortunately, we don't have our deans here with us this evening because the focus was on something else. I don't have a lot of the information. I don't know if Jeff, if you have anything to add or not. I know that there has been a lot of work done within our School of Science and the Environment around labs, and even over the spring semester, one of our professors, well, actually he's been doing it for a few years now, has been offering an intro chemistry course online, and I know they mail some supplies to students, and you know, they do it sort of virtually, but in terms of the nitty-gritty details, I don't have a lot to offer.
So I would just add that Carolyn has covered the basic components of it. Our Dean of Science and the Environment has been working with the Dean of Science and the department over in St. John's campus, which is working throughout Atlantic Canada. This is a common problem. There have been developed very sophisticated online and remote delivery systems on labs. Whereas, like Carolyn, I couldn't give you the exact details of it, but this was something that was tackled very early, and I think that the result that you'll see will address this as the best possible ability that not just that we have, but universities throughout the Atlantic Canada region and throughout the Maritimes. So I wouldn't worry about that. So what you'll be getting through Grenfell on labs will be commensurate with other institutions. There's particular software that's been developed on this as well.
Okay, and I actually see another question there about, will we be receiving full materials needed lists for our courses and programs such as textbooks, online resources, etc. So right now, if you go to the Grenfell campus website, grenfell.mun.ca, there's a big yellow block there, Your Grenfell Experience Hub. And there you'll find a whole host of information around remote delivery. But one of the things is around fall courses. And as information becomes available around required textbooks, it will be posted under the specific courses. So I encourage you to look there. A lot of the information is already there, and there will be more added continuously. Also, once your course shell is open on Brightspace, so that's where your courses will be delivered, you'll be able to look at your course syllabus. Now that normally is, you know, as of the first day of class. There are some professors who may be making the course shell available prior to the first day of class, not to get started on, you know, on the content in the lectures, but just to make some of that information available as well. In addition, I know there are some professors who may have more extensive listings that are sending an email to their class list to make sure that the detailed information is received. Again, if there's a specific course that you're really concerned about, you can reach out to the professor, but first I would just check that website to see if the information has been posted. And there will be information there on how you can access the textbook as well. So sometimes you'll see that you can access electronically, online. There may be digital versions, or there may be information on where it can be physically purchased.
Also, just to sort of bring two points together, Carolyn, you just mentioned the Brightspace shell, which is what's going to be used to deliver the students' courses. That's also a great resource in terms of the Grenfell experience. On that site, your student will find a whole gamut of information, including information about supplemental instruction and peer tutoring. So that was developed over the summer. It's quite extensive. So if your student has any information, they could try there, or they can call, email us at info@grenfell.ca. So I just want to make sure that your students are aware of the Brightspace shell.
Okay, and yes, the shell that Diane was talking about, there was like a transition course that's been going on throughout this summer, almost like an orientation program. But if you haven't done it yet, it's, you can still log in now and sort of work through the material, and it's a good way to sort of play around with the online platform that will be used in your courses, and get you familiar with that. So I think that clues everything up. We're 2 minutes away from 8 o'clock. So it's been, I hope you've all found this helpful. Thank you for joining us. Again, be sure to continually check our website. Look for that Your Grenfell Experience Hub, where we continue to post updates and add FAQs. There will continue to be orientation events over the next few weeks, and a link to our full orientation schedule will be posted on the Your Grenfell Experience Hub as well. So even though we're not physically here, just it would be great to participate in some of those events, to make connections and to find out about what supports are here. Again, I can't stress enough, please reach out if you have any questions or concerns at all. We are here to support you. We are here to support our students, and we want our students to succeed. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon, whether it's virtually or in person, hopefully soon. So take care, everyone, and thank you once again. Good night.